What makes a person successful? Is it drive, discipline, patience, money? Several things can contribute to success. However, certain common obstacles can actually hinder success, and that's what we're going to look at today. We've compiled a list of 7 of the most common barriers that often stand in the way of success, and have provided 3 simple and actionable steps to help you overcome each one of them. Let's go. The first barrier: procrastination and activation energy. When you delay or postpone tasks because you lack motivation or feel that starting them requires too much effort, sometimes it's okay to delay tasks as part of good time management. However, intentionally avoiding tasks that you know you need to do and that may have negative consequences is procrastination. Procrastination is linked to negative emotions and can be more common in people who struggle with emotions and self-esteem. The amygdala is a small part of the brain that regulates emotions, motivation, and memory, and plays a key role in procrastination. When you face a perceived threat, procrastination can be your body's way of trying to protect itself. This is part of the fight, flight, or freeze response. The amygdala tries to deal with the perceived threat by avoiding it altogether and actually opting for something less stressful instead. Procrastination does not necessarily mean that you're lazy. It can be a result of caring too much or even a fear of failure. We'll look at that more in part 4. So how can you break through this barrier? Here are 3 actionable steps you can take. The first is to reduce nearby distractions. I remember reading this book a while ago called Feel the Fear, and there was a guy in there that wanted to learn how to play the guitar, but every day he'd come home from work, tired, and he'd switch on the TV, and he'd watch TV for hours instead. The steps that he took to combat this were to take the batteries out of the remote and put them over in his bedroom somewhere, and buy a guitar stand, stick it in the middle of his living room, and leave the guitar on there. He would walk past that guitar more often than he would walk past a remote with batteries in it. This actually caused him to pick up the guitar way more than he thought he would, and reduced his TV time significantly. So reduce nearby distractions. You could also journal to find out the reason why you're putting off a task. Journaling is a good way to put all of your thoughts down on paper, whether they're conscious thoughts or subconscious thoughts. When you can see these thoughts written down in black and white in front of you, it's easier to see where your mind is putting off the task you need to do. I tend to write in pen and paper. Somehow it has much better effect than actually just typing it out. And lastly, break tasks down into smaller, manageable steps. 3 is a really good number for this, so breaking tasks down into 3 is usually a good idea. If you have your goal and you have your 3 tasks underneath that, if they're too big, split them into 3 again. If they're too big, split them into 3 again. Keep breaking these down into 3 until the tasks feel manageable. The second barrier: imposter syndrome. Around 70% of people experience this second barrier at some point in their lives. Imposter syndrome occurs when you doubt your own abilities and you worry about being revealed as a fake, even though you're competent. This can hurt your confidence, stop you from growing, and can make you feel unsure of yourself. Imposter syndrome can take many different forms, such as believing that you don't deserve success, or attributing your accomplishments to external factors like luck. Often, perfectionism and procrastination are used subconsciously as coping mechanisms. This may mean leaving tasks to the last minute to prove that you could have done better if you'd put more effort in, or, on the flip side, overworking yourself so you can attribute your success entirely down to just hard work. Another common feeling is the need to be the best, which can lead to comparing yourself to others who may have had different unfair advantages or have been on their journey for longer. So what can you do to break through this barrier? Well, you could acknowledge your achievements. This could be done by journaling. Take time to look back at what you've achieved so far and realise where you've come from and where you are now. Look out for positive affirmations. This could come from friends or family, but be aware friends and family can say what they want to make you feel good, so it could be a good idea to look at third parties and see what they think of your work. And finally, embrace continuous learning. This is to do with the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset, which we'll look at later on. The third barrier: goal setting. Although goal setting is generally a very useful tool, there are occasions where it can be a hindrance. When setting goals, it's important to be realistic and avoid aiming too high. Overly ambitious goals can lead to frustration and loss of motivation. As we spoke about in barrier 1, if a goal is too far out of reach, break it down into 3, then break that down into 3, and so on, until tasks are manageable. Being too rigid and inflexible with goals can make it difficult to adapt to change. Remember, as the Greek philosopher Heraclitus said, the only constant in life is change. When setting goals, it's important to be clear and specific. Vague or unrealistic goals can leave you feeling unmotivated and directionless, which can hinder your progress and your overall success. To effectively set goals, you need to have clear objectives and actionable plans. Keep sentences short and to the point, and organise your thoughts logically. By following these guidelines, you can ensure your goals are achievable, which will help you reach your full potential. So the 3 actionable steps you can take to break through this barrier: make goals specific and measurable, break long-term goals into short-term objectives, again using the rule of 3, and regularly review and adjust your goals depending on what's going on in your life. The 4th barrier: fear of failure. The fear of failure is the anxiety that arises from the possibility of not achieving a desired outcome and is the 4th of our most common barriers to success. This fear may cause hesitation and the avoidance of challenges that may come our way. The fear of failure can be so overwhelming that it may prevent us from taking the necessary risks to achieve our goals, which can limit personal and professional growth. I read a page from the Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday the other day, and he gave his take on a quote from Epictetus. He said something along the lines of, think back to when you were at school. There were always the kids that would mess about rather than try. This gave them the perfect excuse when it came to getting results, because they can just say, it doesn't matter, I wasn't really trying. I'm sure you've had that at the end of an exam at some point. Remember, failure is not a defining characteristic. It's natural to feel anxious about not achieving what you want, but don't let that fear hold you back. Keep pushing forward and know that success often comes from learning from our mistakes. So the 3 actionable steps you can take to overcome the fear of failure. Number 1, view failures as learning opportunities. You can say L's stand for lessons, not for losses. Take Kaizen-like steps. If you haven't heard of Kaizen is a Japanese philosophy of making small incremental changes over time and can be applied to both business and personal growth. Kaizen literally translates to continuous improvement and has been used by Toyota since the 1950s to great effect. They don't just think in terms of the next quarter or the next year or the next 5 years, they think in decades. And the 3rd step, celebrate small successes along the way to reinforce a positive mindset, which boosts confidence and provides motivation to persist in the face of challenges. The 5th barrier: resources. The 5th of our 7 barriers to success is resources. However, it's important to remember that resourcefulness is key to success. Lack of adequate resources, be it financial or educational, can hinder progress. Limited access to funds or educational opportunities may hinder skill development, restrict access to necessary tools, and create barriers to entry in certain fields. But it's important to remember that everyone begins with a different set of skills, varying levels of education, and a diverse financial background. You can improve these factors over time through your learning endeavours and how you invest your time and your money. These ultimately don't determine your final destination, or even your journey for that matter. It's about making the right decisions along the way and learning from the wrong ones. And believe me, there will be wrong ones. As mentioned earlier, try to view failures as opportunities to grow. 3 actionable steps to maximise your resources. Make sure to prioritise your tasks and budget your resources effectively. Seek mentorship and guidance, but seek it from someone who is a few steps ahead of you. Someone who is miles ahead won't be able to relate to you in the same way. And finally, make the most of low-cost educational resources like books, or even free resources such as free online downloads, libraries, and YouTube videos. The 6th barrier: your circle. Our relationships have a significant impact on our personal and professional growth. Healthy relationships based on trust, respect, and communication can help us overcome challenges and succeed in life. However, toxic relationships can cause stress and can hinder progress. So it's up to you to identify negative patterns and take steps to either improve them or let them go. Prioritising healthy relationships creates a positive and supportive environment that fosters personal growth. You may have heard that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And to be honest, this has been a challenge for me in the past. If people you are around are not encouraging, positive, and don't have your back, then you may need to reevaluate who you keep around. Stephen Bartlett once said in one of his talks, and in his book as well, were you driven or were you dragged? He believes that in most cases, successful people are being dragged by some form of insecurity or some need for validation. He goes on to say, initially, I thought these individuals, including myself, were genuinely driven and intentional. I believed we were just making excellent choices and had a strong work ethic. However, I learned that all of these people possess significant levels of shame, which is one of the most powerful motivators that I have ever seen. Many individuals are pulled towards success because they feel like they have something to prove to their parents, friends, or themselves. So what's your motivation? Are you being driven or are you dragged? So what can you do to improve your circle? Well, here are 3 steps. Communicate openly about your goals. Surround yourself with supportive individuals. And set boundaries where necessary. The 7th barrier: self-sabotage. Self-sabotage is a subconscious behaviour which often arises from our mindset and belief system. It includes behaviours and thought patterns that undermine our success. Self-sabotage can take many forms, such as fear of failure, low self-esteem, lack of confidence, past traumas, unresolved psychological issues, procrastination, self-doubt, perfectionism, avoidance of opportunities, negative self-talk, or harmful habits. It's quite a lot. If you tend to speak negatively about yourself, or overthink the parts of a task that you believe you could have done better, it may be due to having too high expectations or being too much of a perfectionist. Feeling like you always need to be perfect results in feeling like you never achieve anything because the goal in your mind is unrealistic. When you feel like you're never achieving anything, it's unsurprising that your self-esteem takes a hit. I can definitely say that I've struggled with everything on this list so far, all 7 of them, but this one is quite a big one. And here are the 3 actionable steps you can take. Number 1, challenge negative thoughts that send you down a spiral. Use positive affirmations and positive self-talk to help you with this. Secondly, reach out for help from your circle, whether that's friends, family, colleagues, or business partners. And thirdly, embrace a growth mindset. Now, a fixed mindset is believing that abilities are static and cannot be changed, and this can lead to avoidance of challenges. On the other side, a growth mindset embraces challenges and views failures as opportunities for learning and improvement. Now, I can safely say that I've struggled with pretty much everything on this list, and I still struggle with a lot of it today, but I've been putting a lot of this stuff into practice over the last 6 or 7 years. So I hope that you've learned something about how to overcome some of these barriers to success and maybe even learn something about yourself. Remember that overcoming these challenges is a journey, not a destination. It's a continuous thing. By implementing the strategies given in this video, you'll be better equipped to break through these barriers and hopefully achieve the success that you deserve.